Hi everyone, this is Jeza Di Baguio. For today's video, I'm going to discuss my answer in practice drill in bases and dimension. The instruction is, please answer each of the following items. So in number 1, let u sub 1 equals to 3, negative 1, 2, and u sub 2 is equals to 3, 1, 5. So letter A. Express the vector v equals to 9, 11, 27 as a linear combination of u sub 1 and u sub 2 if possible. So here is my solution. So c sub 1, 3, negative 1, 2 plus c sub 2, 3, 1, 5 equals to 9, 11, 27. So all we need to do is to find the c sub 1 and c sub 2. So in order to find it, let's forming this 3, negative 1, 2, 3, 1, 5 into matrix and augment it into 9, 11, 27. So this matrix, we will make this into identity matrix. So the identity matrix is 1, 0, 0, 0, 1, 0, 0, 0, 1. So we will focus first into row 1. So we will copy first the row 2 and row 3. Row 2 and row 3. So since 3 is the first number, so we will make it into 1. So in order to make this 3 into 1, we will use the formula 1/3 times R1. So 1/3 times 3 is equals to 1. 1/3 times 3 is equals to 1. 1/3 times 9 is equals to 3. So now, we will make this negative 1 and 2 equal to 0. So in order to make this negative 1, 2 equal to 0, we will use the formula 1 times R1 plus R2 in row 3, negative 2 R1 plus R3. So first, we will just copy the row 1, which is 1, 1, 3. So in row 2, 1 times 1 times 1 1 times 1 plus negative 1 is equals to 0. 1 times 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. 1 times 3 plus 11 is equals to 14. In row 3, negative 2 times 1 plus 2 is equals to 0. Negative 2 times 1 plus 5 is equals to 3. Negative 2 times 3 plus 27 is equals to 21. So now, we will we will proceed to column 2. So in column 2, we will make this 2 into 1. So in order to make this 2 into 1, we will use the formula 1/2 times R2. So we will just copy the row 1 and row 3. Row 3. Row 1, row 3. So let's proceed. 1/2 times 0 is equals to 0. 1/2 times 2 is equals to 1. 1/2 times 14 is equals to 7. So now, we will make the 1 and 3 into zeros. So the formula that we use is negative 1 R2 plus R3, and row 3 is negative 3 times R2 plus R3. So we will just copy first the row 2. So row 2, 0, 1, 7. So negative 1 times 0 plus 1 is equals to 1. Negative 1 times 1 plus 1 is equals to 0. Negative 1 times 7 plus 3 is equals to negative 4. And row 3, negative 3 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times 7 plus 27 equals to 0. So since the row 3 is equals to 0, 0, 0, then therefore the system is consistent. So there is a solution, and the vector v is a linear combination of vectors u sub 1 and u sub 2. So in order to check in order to make sure that the u sub 1 and u sub 2 is a vector, in order make uh to make sure that the vector v is a linear combination of u sub 1 and u sub 2, we will check this using by this. So since our c sub 1 is -4 and our c sub 2 is 7, so we will just substitute it. So -4 times 3 -1, 2 plus 7 times 3, 1, 5 equals to 9, 11, 27. So -4 times 3 is equals to -12. -4 times 1 is equals to 4. -4 times 2 is equals to 80 and -8. Plus plus 7 times 3 is equals to 21. 7 times 1 is equals to 7. 7 times 5 is equals to 35. Equals to 9, 11, 27. So -12 plus 21 is equals to 9. 4 plus 7 equals to 11. -8 plus 35 is equals to 27. So it is equal. So the system is so our answer is correct. So now let's proceed to letter B. So find k that the vector w is -5, 4, k is a linear combination of u sub 1 and u sub 2. So solution, c1 3 -1, 2 plus c2 3 1 5 equals to -5, 4, k. So same process Japon, pangitaw na to ang c1 and c2. In order to find the c1, c2, we will form it the -1, 3, -1, 2, and 3, 1, 5 into matrix and augment it to -5, 4, k. So here's same process Japon. We will make this matrix into identity matrix. So we will just copy the row 2 and row 3. So since 3 is the first number, we will use the formula 1/3 times R1 in order to make it 1. So 1/3 times 3 is equals to 1. 1/3 times 3 is equals to 1. 1/3 times -5 is equals to -5 over 3. So next, we will make this -1 and 2 into 0. So in order to make this -1, 2, we will use the formula 1 times R1 plus R2, and row 3 is -2 times R1 plus R3. So we will just copy the row 1, which is this 1, 1, -5 over 3. So in row 2, -1, 1 times 1 plus -1 is equals to 0. 1 times 1 plus 1 is equals to 2. 1 times -5 over 3 plus 4 is equals to 7 over 3. In row 2, and row 3 rather, -2 times 1 plus 2 is equals to 0. -2 times 1 plus 3 is plus 5 equals to 3. -2 times 1 over 5 over 3 plus k is equals to 10 over 3 plus k. So now we will make this 2 into 1. So in order to make this 2 into 1, we will use the formula 1/2 times R2. So we will just copy the R1 and R2. So R1 and R2. So 1/2 times 0 is equals to 0. 1/2 times 2 is equals to 1. 1/2 times 7 over 3 is equals to 7 over 6. So next, we will make this 1 and 3 into 0. So, in order to make this 1 and 3 into 0, we will use the formula negative 1 times R2 plus R1. In R3, negative 3 times R2 plus R3. So, we will just copy the R2. So, negative 1 times 1 times 0 plus 1 is equals to 1. Negative 1 plus 1 plus 1 is equals to 0. Negative 1 times 7 over 6 plus r plus negative 5 over 3 is equals to negative 17 over 6. In R3, negative 3 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times 7 over 6 plus 10 over 3 plus k is equals to negative 1 over 6 plus k. So, since gipangita man na to ang value sa k. So, first, since we have negative 1 over 6 plus k, so we will equate it into 0 to make to find the k. So, negative 1 over 6 plus k equals to 0. So, k equals to 0. We will transpose this negative 1 over 6 into in here. So, when it makes it a positive 1 over 6. So, our k is 1 over 6. So, our C1 is negative 17 over 6 and our C2 is 7 over 6. So, we will proceed to checking. So, since our C1 is negative 17 over 6, our C2 is 7 over 6, so we will just substitute it. So, negative 17 over 6 times 3 is equals to negative 17 over 2. Negative 17 over 6 times negative 1 is equals to positive 17 over 6. Negative 17 over 6 times 2 is equals to negative 17 over 3. Plus, 7 over 6 times 3 is equals to 7 over 2. 7 over 6 times 1 is equals to 7 over 6. 7 over 6 times 5 is equals to 35 over 6. Equal to negative 5, 4, 1 over 6. So, negative 17 over 2 plus 7 over 2 is equals to negative 5. 17 over 6 plus 7 over 6 equals to 4. Negative 17 over 3 plus 35 over 6 equals to 1 over 6. So, it is equal. So, therefore, vector W is a linear combination of vector U sub 1 and U sub 2. So, that is letter B. So, let's proceed now to number 2. So, let A sub 1 equals to 634 is A sub 2 equals to 9, negative 3, 5, and B is equal to 7, 6, H. So, in letter A, let's find the H so that the B is the span A sub 1, A sub 2. So, here's the solution. So, since our use A sub 1 is 634 and A sub 2 is 9, negative 3, 5. In order to make the H, in order to find the H, we will augment the 634 and 9, negative 3, 5 into 7, 6, H. So, we will just focus first in row 1. So, copy row 2 and row 3 first. So, in order to make this 6 into 1, we will use the formula 1 over 6 times R1. So, 1 over 6 times 6 is equals to 1. 1 over 6 times 9 is equals to 3 over 2. 1 over 6 times 7 is equals to 7 over 6. So now let's proceed to row 2 and row 3. So in order to make the 3 and 4 into 0, we will use the formula negative 3 times r1 plus r2 into this formula is for r2 for row 3, negative 4 times r1 plus r2. So first we will just copy the row 1, which is the 1 3 over 2 and 7 over 6. So now negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times 3 over 2 plus negative 3 is equals to negative 15 over 2. Negative 3 times 7 over 6 plus 6 is equals to 5 over 2. In row 3, negative 4 times 1 plus 4 is equals to 0. Negative 4 times 3 over 2 plus 5 is equals to negative 1. Negative 4 times 7 over 6 plus h is equals to negative 14 over 3 plus h. So now, we will make this negative 15 over 2 into 1. So in order to make this 15 over 2 into 1, we will use the formula negative 2 over 15 times r2. So we will just copy first the row 1 and row 3. So row 1 and row 3. So negative 2 over 15 is equals to times 0 is equal to 0. Negative 2 over 15 times negative 15 over 2 equal to 1. Negative 2 over 15 times 5 over 2 is equal to negative 1 over 3. So now, we will make this 3 over 2 and negative 1 into 0. So in order to make this 3 over 2 and negative 1 into 0, we will use this formula for row 1 is negative 3 over 2 times r2 plus r1. In row 3, 1 times r2 plus r3. So first, we will just copy the row 2, which is 0, 1, negative 1 over 3. So in row 1, negative 3 over 2 times 0 plus 1 is equals to 1. Negative 3 over 2 times 1 plus negative 3 over 2 is equals to 0. Negative 3 over 2 plus times negative 1 over 3 plus 7 over 6 is equals to 5 over 3. In R3, 1 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. 1 times 1 plus negative 1 is equals to 0. 1 times negative 1 equals to over 3. 1 times negative 1 over 3 plus negative 14 over 3 plus h is equals to h na minus 5. So, diba, gipangita man na to ang value sa h. So, h minus 5 is, ato siyang equate to 0 para makita na to or makuha na to ang h. So, h equals to 0 plus 5. So, atong gi-transpose ang negative 5 into here para mahimo siyang positive 5. So, 0 plus 5 is equals to 5. Actually, this is 5 na nasa iyo. 5 na siya. So, at our C1 is 5 over 3, our C2 is negative 1 over 3. So, since ato siyang i-check if sakto ba tong answer. So, since atong h is 5, so ato siyang i-substitute sa h. So, and our C1 is 5 over 3 and our C2 is negative 1 over 3. So, 5 over 3 times 6 equals to 10. 5 over 3 times 3 is equals to 5. 5 over 3 times 4 is equals to 20 over 3. plus negative 1 over 3 times 9 is equals to negative 3. Negative 1 over 3 times negative 3 is equals to 1. Yeah. Negative 1 over 3 times 5 is equals to negative 5 over 3. So, equals to 765. So, 10 plus negative 3 is equals to 7. 5 plus 1 is equals to 6. 20 over 3 plus negative 5 over 3 is equals to 5. So, equals silang duha. So, therefore, the vector B is a linear combination of vectors A sub 1 and A sub 2. So, now, let's proceed to letter B. So, for the H that you found in the previous part, express B as the linear combination of A sub 1 and A sub 2. So, here's the solution. So, atong A sub 1 and A sub 2 is C6, atong A sub 1 is 6, 3, 4, and A sub 2 is 9, negative 3, 5. And atong H, diba, nakita man nato sa atong H is 5. So, atong i-augment it to 7, 6, 5. So, first, we will just copy, first is, we make this 6 into 1. So, first, we will just copy the row 2, and row 3. So, the formula that we will use is 1 over 6 times R1. So, 1 over 6 times 6 is equals to 1. 1 over 6 times 9 is equals to 3 over 2. 1 over 6 times 7 is equals to 7 over 6. So, now let's proceed making this 3 and 4 into 0. So, the formula that we will use is negative 3 times R1 plus R2. This formula is for R2. For R3 is negative 4 times R1 plus R3. So, first, we will just copy the row 1. So, row 1. So, negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times negative 3 times 3 over 2 plus negative 3 is equals to negative 15 over 2. Negative 3 times 7 over 6 plus 6 is equals to 5 over 2. In R3, negative 4 times 1 is negative 4 times 1 plus 4 is equals to 0. Negative 4 times 3 over 2 plus 5 is equals to negative 1. Negative 4 times 7 over 6 plus 5 is equals to 1 over 3. So, next, we will make this negative 15 over 2 into 1. So, in order to make this negative 15 over 2 into 1, we will use the formula negative 2 over 15 times R2. So, first, we will just copy the row 1 and row 2. So, negative 2 over 15 times 0 is equals to 0. Negative 2 over 15 times negative 15 over 2 is equals to 1. Negative 2 over 15 times 5 over 2 is equals to negative 1 over 3. So, let's proceed to 3 over 2 and negative 1, making this 3 over 2 and negative 1 to 0. So, to make this 3 over 2 and negative 1 into 0, we will use the formula negative 3 over 2 times R2 plus R1. This formula is for row 1. So, negative 3 over 2 times 0 plus 1 is equals to 1. Negative 3 over 2 times 1 plus plus 3 over 2 is equals to 0. Negative 3 over 2 times negative 1 over 3 plus 7 over 6 equals to 5 over 3. For row 3, 1 times R2 plus R3. So, 1 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. 1 times 1, 1 times 1 plus negative 1 is equals to 0. 1 times negative 1 times negative 1 over 3 plus 1 over 3 is equals to 0. So, since the row 3 is equal to 0, 0, 0 naman, so therefore the system is consistent, so there is a solution, and the vector B is a linear combination of vectors A sub 1 and A sub 2. So, C sub 1 nato is 5 over 3 and C sub 2 nato is negative 1 over 3. So, checking ta, substitute na to ang value sa C sub 1 and C sub 2. So, 5 over 3 times 6 equals to 10. 5 over 3 times 3 is equals to 5. 5 over 3 times 20 over 3 is equals to 5 over 3 times 4 is equals to 20 over 3. Plus negative 1 over 3 times 9 is equals to negative 3. Negative 1 over 3 times 3, negative 3 is equals to 1. Negative 1 over 3 times 5 is equals to negative 5 over 3. So, 10 plus negative 3 is equals to 7. 5 plus 1 is equals to 6. 20 over 3 plus negative 5 over 3 is equals to 5. So, equal siya. So, atong answer is sakto. So, now, we'll proceed to number 3. Actually, wala ni siya. Wala ni siya. Actually, wala ko'y answer sa number 3. Okay, wala ako kabalo unsaon siya pag-process. So, ang question sa number 3 is, let B sub 1 equals to H57 and B sub 2 equals to negative 137 and B sub 3 equals to 112. And then, find the H so that the B sub 1 is span to B sub 1 and B sub 2. So, wala ko yung answer na kayo. Di ko kabalo. So, now, let's proceed to number 4. So, let U sub 1 equals to 203 negative 1. And U sub 2 is negative 4 zeros negative 62. U sub 3 is 5503. U sub 4 is 13 negative 65. And 0 is equals to 0, 0, 0, 0. So, determine whether each set is linearly independent or linearly dependent. So, letter A, set of U sub 1. So, since our U sub 1 is 2031, negative 1, so our solution is C sub 1, 203 negative 1, ato siyang equate into 0, 0, 0, 0. So, ato siyang i-form into matrix and i-augment sa 0, 0, 0. So, since ang row 1 nato, ang row 1 nato na ang first, ang number niya is 2, so ato siyang ihimog 1. So, in order to make this 2 into 1, we will use the we will use the formula 1 over 2 times R1. So, first, we will just copy the row 1, row 2, and row 3. Row 1, row 2, row 3. So, 1/2 times R1 times 2 is equals to 1. 1/2 times 0 is equals to 0. So, next, since atong row 2 is 0 naman siya, so we will proceed to row 3 and row 4. So, we will make this 3 and negative 1 into 0. So, the formula that we will use is negative 3 times R1 plus R3. And in row 4, R1 plus R4. So, negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. In row 4, R1 plus R4. So, 1 plus negative 1 is equals to 0. 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So, our C1 is 0. So, therefore, U sub 1 is linearly independent. So, letter B. So, set U sub 1 and U sub 2. So, since our U sub 1 is 203 negative 1 and our U sub 2 is negative 4 zeros negative 62. So, ang itong solution is C sub 1, 203 negative 1 plus C sub 2 negative 4 zeros negative 2. So, ato siyang i-equal to 0, 0, 0. So, first, atong i-augment ang 203 negative 1 negative 4, 0, negative 6, 2, into, ato siya augment into 0, 0, 0, 0. So first, atong, since ang first number is 2, so in order to make this 2 into 1, we will use the formula 1/2 times R1. So first, we will just copy the row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. Row 1, row 2, row 3, and row 4. So 1/2 times 2 is equals to 1. 1/2 times negative 4 is equals to negative 2. 1/2 times 0 is equals to 0. So next, since our row 2 is 0 naman siya, so row 3 and row 4 na po atong problemahon. So atong himuon ang 3 and negative 1 into 0. So the formula that we will use to make this 0 is negative 3 times R1 plus R3. This is for row 3. And for row 4 is 1 times R1 plus R4. So negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times negative 2 plus negative 6 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times R1, which is 0, plus 0 is equals to 0. So let's proceed to row 4. 1 times 1 times negative 1 is 1, or 1 times negative 2 plus 2 is equals to 0. 1 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So therefore, the use of 1 and use of 2 is linearly dependent. So let's proceed to letter C. So set u sub 1, u sub 2, and u sub 3. So C sub 1, since atong kuan, u sub 1 is 2, 0, 3, negative 1, and u sub 2 is negative 4, 0, negative 6, and 2, and atong u sub 3 is 5, 5, 0, 3. So C sub 1, 2, 0, 3, negative 1, plus C sub 2, negative 4, 0, negative 6, 2. C sub 3 is 5, C sub 3, 5, 5, 0, 3. Equals to, ato siyang equal to 0, 0, 0. So, kaning nambira, kaning u sub 1 and u sub 2 and u sub 3, ato siyang i-augment sa 0, 0, 0. So first, atong buhaton is, since atong first number is 2, so to make this 2 into 1, we will use the formula 1/2 times R1. So first, we will just copy the row 2 and row 3 and row 4. So 1/2 times 2 is equals to 1. 1/2 times negative 4 is equals to negative 2. 1/2 times 5 is equals to 5 over 2. 1/2 times 0 is equals to 0. So since ang row 2 nato kay 0 naman siya daan kaning sa first number niya, so atong problemahan is ang row 3 and row 4 na pod. So in order to make this 3 and negative 1 into 0, we will use the formula negative 3 times R1 plus R3. Sa kaning formula is for row 3. And sa row 4, formula is 1 times R1 plus R4. So negative 3 times 1 plus 3 is equals to 0. Negative 3 times negative 2 plus negative 6 equals to 0. Negative 3 times 5 over 2 plus 0 is equals to negative 15 over 2. Negative 3 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So row 4, 1 times 1 plus negative 1 is equals to 0. 1 times negative 2 plus 2 is equals to 0. 1 times 5 over 2 plus 3 is equals to 11 over 2. And 1 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So therefore, the set u sub 1 and u sub 2 and u sub 3 is linearly dependent. So now, let's proceed to letter D. So set u sub 2, u sub 3, and u sub 4. So u sub 2 nato is negative 4, 0, negative 6. Ang u sub 2 u sub 3 nato is 5, 5, 0, 3. And u sub 4 nato is 1, 3, negative 6, 5. Ato siyang e0, 0, equal to 0, 0. So ato siyang i-make into matrix, and kaning ang u sub 1, u sub 2, u sub 3, u sub 4, and ato siyang i-augment to 0, 0, 0. So first, atong buhaton is to make this negative 4 into 1. So, to make this negative 4 into 1, we will use the formula negative 1 over 4 times R1. So, first, we will just copy the row 2, row 3, and row 4. So, negative 1 over 4 times negative 4 is equals to 1. Negative 1 over 4 times 5 is equals to negative 5 over 4. Negative 1 over 4 times 1 is equals to negative 1 over 4. So, negative 4 times 4 is equals to 0. So, since ang atong row 2 is 0 naman siya, kaning first number, so atong problemahan is ang row 3 and row 4. So, the formula that we will use is 6 times R1 plus R3. And atong sa row 4 is negative 2 times R1 plus R4. So, 6 times 1 plus negative 6 equals to 0. 6 times negative 5 over 4 is plus 0 is equals to negative 15 over 2. 6 times negative 1 over 4 plus negative 6 equals to negative 15 over 2. 6 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So, R4 na to is negative 2 times 1 plus 2 is equals to 0. Negative 2 times negative 5 over 4 plus 3 is equals to 11 over 2. Negative 4 times negative 2 times negative 1 over 4 plus 5 is equals to 11 over 2. Negative 2 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So next, we will make this 5 into 1. In order to make this 5 into 1, we will use the formula 1 over 5 times R2. So first, we will just copy the R1, R2, and R3. So, copy. So, 1 over 5 times 0 is equals to 0. 1 over 5 times 5 is equals to 1. 1 over 5 times 3 is equals to 3 over 5. And 1 over 5 times 0 is equals to 0. So next, this negative 5 over 4, negative 15 over 2, 11 over 2, we will make this 3 numbers into 0. So the formula that we will use is 5 over 14 times R2 plus R1. This is for row 1. For row 3, 15 over 2 times R2 plus R3. This is for row 3. Row 4 is negative 11 over 2 times R2 plus R4. So first, we will solve first the row 1. So 5 over 14 times 0 plus 1 is equals to 1. 5 over 15 times 1 plus negative 5 over 4. Actually, this is 4 actually. Nasa yupra ko. 4 ni siya ha. 4. Yeah, let's proceed. So, 5 over 4 times 1 plus negative 5 over 4 is equals to 0. 5 over 4 times 3 over 5 plus negative 1 over 4 is equals to 1 over 28. 5 over 4 times 0 plus 0 is equals to 0. So, in row 3, 15 over 2 times 0 is equals to 0. 15 over 2 times 1 plus negative 15 over 2 is equals to 0.